Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all survived last night.
And this is the first session of the last day. So the EENA conference is coming to a close for this year, but we still have some very, very, very interesting presentations. And we will start today with Peter Billing. Now, the only reason I have to read his title is because it's listed here, Head of Unit DG ECHO A2 Emergency Preparedness and Security. Now, why do I have to read that? That's because I know Peter Billing as the ERCC man, so the European Response Coordination Center. And I even know him from before, from the Monitoring and Information Center, so from MIC. And he's the right person to discuss the issues here. So with no further delay, Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dimitri, and good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to be here. It's the early hour. When I came this morning, I was, it's so quiet. It's actually a public holiday. Very interesting. Anyway, I'm trying to keep you awake or to make you awake in the next few minutes, talking about the ERCC, the Emergency Response Coordination Center, and the EU Civil Protection Mechanism. And I would also like to say that, of course, we all feel very honored to have received this award. It was a very nice gesture and a nice acknowledgement of the activities that we have undertaken together with our partners in the member states over the last years. Well, the mechanism, the European Civil Protection Mechanism, is an instrument which is composed of 34, we call them participating states. It's the EU member states, the 28 member states, and 6 countries around Norway, Iceland, the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, Montenegro, and also Turkey since 2 years. The mechanism has been established in 2001, so it's a relatively new instrument, and it has been activated for more than 300 emergencies in Europe, but also worldwide. In all major disaster scenes, you have seen colleagues with the blue vests from the mechanism over the last years, be it Haiti in 2010, the large earthquake, or the tsunami in Japan in 2011, Hurricane Katrina in the US in 2005, and many, many other emergencies over the last decade. The mechanism tries to address the disaster cycle in its entirety, so not only focusing on response, but also to an increasing extent to deal with prevention and preparedness. We have, for example, a quite extensive training program for responders, for team members, from search and rescue teams, medical teams, and many other teams from the member states. The whole thing is coordinated through the ERCC, the Emergency Response Coordination Center that we have established in 2013. We're actually celebrating in a few days the 5th anniversary. It was opened on the 15th of May 2013. It's a quite special animal, if I may say so. It's the kind of spider in the web that links us with the participating states. The ERCC is staffed on a 24/7 basis with a minimum of 2 colleagues, normally during daytime 3 colleagues, and it can be scaled up and down according to need. What they're doing is basically monitoring disaster risks, possible potential disasters or ongoing disasters, for which we have developed a number of tools together with our colleagues from the research department. You have seen some of the tools during the conference already. EFIS, for example, the European Forest Fire Information System, or EFAS, the European flood awareness system, and GDAX, which is the most known and widely distributed, with about 20,000 users worldwide. So we are monitoring disaster situations worldwide. We provide real-time information from our various sources. Since 2010, you may know the mechanism, the ERCC, and the predecessor has actually been merged with DG ECHO, the Humanitarian branch of the European Commission. And with this merger, we can also make use of our network of technical assistance in 40 field offices worldwide. So we have a very broad and very rich information flow that we also share with our partners, with the contact points in the member states. And I see two colleagues over there from CORS, from the Slovenian Crisis Center authorities. And I think this works fairly well, I would say. When it comes to deployments based on a request for assistance, the ERCC is sort of the coordinating body supporting the deployments of the missions with liaison officers and with the deployment of an EUCP team. Now, what are we dealing with in the mechanism? It's mainly natural disasters. You see this graph where it's not the classical cake, but it's a rectangle. But you can see the four main areas of activities concern forest fires, 31% of all activations in the last 3 years, floods, 18%, cyclones and storms, and earthquakes, and a few others linked to biological emergencies, and to a very small extent also man-made disasters, conflicts. This is more for the humanitarian side, but we can also intervene upon requests. For example, in 2016, we had a mission to Iraq to provide medical assistance on request of the WHO. Now, how does the system work? Well, the ERCC, as sort of the coordinating center, has partners, single points of contact in all participating states. So whenever there is a disaster and a country makes a request to the ERCC, we disseminate that to the member states. We collect the offers of assistance, coordinate the acceptance with the stricken country, with the support sometimes of the EU delegation on site or with our technical assistance, and we help deploying the assistance and coordination on site with an EU civil protection team. The team members normally come from the member states. They are trained experts. Here, right next to me, is one of the experts trained in the system. And they are on site, and they play back information from the field to the ERCC so we can adapt the requests and the offers. Another feature in the system, since 2007, we can actually also supply transport assistance, co-financing of transport. There are two ways to do that. A normal one where we co-finance 55%, and another one for specific exceptional circumstances or modules of 85% transport co-financing. If we look at last year, we can see there have been 32 activations of the system all over the world. You can see the different places. The large part of the assistance was related to forest fires, in particular in Portugal. You have seen the stories during the award ceremony. On top of the sort of normal deployment of EUCP teams, we also support the establishment of what we call modules in the member states. Modules are response assets that fulfill a number of requirements in terms of quality, in terms of interoperability. If they are deployed to another country, they need to be able to cooperate with the other capacities on site. They need to be autonomous for a number of days in order not to be a burden to the receiving country, but to actually provide the assistance as required. And you can see here an overview of the different assets registered in our database from the different member states. Some of these modules are actually registered as voluntary pool modules, which means that they have to fulfill additional requirements in terms of quality, and they're also certified so that we can be sure once deployed they are actually performing what they should be able to perform. And they're also pre-committed by member states, so normally, unless there's a case of force majeure, the member states liberates them on request of the ERCC. Let's have well, this is actually a photo of the ERCC main operations room, and let's have a look at some of the recent emergencies that we dealt with under the UCPM. You will remember there was a very intensive tropical cyclone season in the Caribbean last year with a number of tropical cyclones, Irma, Maria, and others. And we had quite some intensive activations and activities in the countries. We deployed several teams at different sites. We coordinated and facilitated the assistance of member states, in this case for Irma, Germany and Netherlands. They also activated the system for consular support, i.e. for the repatriation of European citizens back to Europe. This is also one of the things we can support with, and we facilitated the deployment of material assistance. You see some of the photos here. In addition to that, we activated the Copernicus system. You have seen yesterday a presentation from one of our colleagues, the emergency management system, the EMS, where we produced, together with our partners in the Copernicus system, 65 satellite maps and shared them with the disaster management community. These maps, as we know, contribute to assess the damage. You can see things where you cannot deploy an assessment team, for example, and you can then, based on these maps, you can also design the response strategy. In addition to that, we provided 2.6 million of transport assistance, mainly to transport some of the assistance that you see here by ship with a Dutch vessel that was stationed in the region. For Tropical Storm Maria, we also deployed a team of 9 experts with different sort of profiles, and we also took care that when the experts left, that there was sort of assurance that some of the assistance could continue operating. For that, we deployed also one of our humanitarian colleagues from our office in Haiti, so that there is a smooth handover of the assistance. Again, we activated Copernicus, and for this case, we supported the transport with closely under 800,000 euros. Well, I will not go into the details, but you see here there was quite generous assistance offered by a number of member states, by France, Belgium, the UK, and the Netherlands. You can see, I mean, I don't go into the details, but just to flag one particularly interesting assistance from Belgium. They provided a water purification module that produced more than 40,000 liters of water for the population, and that actually, this module stayed on site. The team trained the local sort of water management authorities so that they continued and were able to continue producing water until the normal water supply came back. Well, I've put up this slide from 2018, which is a quite special one. It deals with an activation. It was more of a monitoring activation for satellite re-entry. The Tiangong satellite or space station came back to Earth. Nobody knew exactly where it would come back. And we have had several cases in the last year where we do monitoring of these kind of sort of potential disasters. You can see the trajectory, and in red here, the parts where there was a certain risk that this ton-heavy satellite would fall on the Earth. Luckily, nothing happened, but still, this is also one of the things we can do in the ERCC to look at potential damage. Now, all of that works fairly well, but we have seen also over the last year that there were some deficiencies, some areas where we need to continue improving the mechanism. Mechanism has been, as I said, established in 2001. In 2007, we did a first review that led to the creation of the transport co-financing. In 2013, we did a second review where we further improved the system, the modules, we created a voluntary pool. But we saw there is a need to further improve the system. Why? One of the reasons is that the disaster scenery is changing. There are more weather-related disasters linked to climate change, population dynamics, people settling in risk areas, and so on. So we need to be ready for future situations, and not only future situations, but also present situations. A concrete example from 2017 relates to the forest fire season. In 2017, the mechanism, the ERCC in particular, received 17 requests for assistance, of which we could only, together with the member states, provide assistance to 10. 7 of them, we didn't have enough assets, there were not enough offers. If you look at this graph, you will see the blue line here is the average burnt area over the last 10 years. On average, around 200 to 250,000 hectares of forest are burning in Europe every year. On the red line here, you see already during the normal season a very steep increase. It started earlier to go up, and then we had this peak in October, which brought the burnt area in Europe last year to 1 million hectares. This is, I don't exactly remember the figures, but it's about half of the size of my home region in Germany, or 1/3 or 1/2 of Belgium. Don't nail me down on the figures, but it's a huge area, and it's unprecedented here, particularly in this period when normally the fire season already goes down and stops. We had a strong upsurge, particularly in Portugal, and you have seen the pictures. So therefore, the Commission presented a new proposal for a review of the mechanism, and in a nutshell, it's basically 3 elements. A very strong, much stronger focus on prevention, in the sense that we would like to mainstream prevention much stronger into the main funding instruments of the Union, be it cohesion funds, structural funds, regional funds, and others. Secondly, a much better predictability in terms of available assets to respond, and a simplification of the administration. By doing that, we will guarantee, or we will keep the basic principles of the mechanism intact, meaning the mechanism will only be activated on the basis of a request for assistance from a country. So we're not sort of sneaking in with whatever. Request for assistance from the country, so the country decides, is in the lead. We will maintain also the principles of decentralization and subsidiarity, so the Commission will not come with its planes and replace the local commander. The local commander and the country is still in the lead. What we ask for is, well, a sort of strategic support to the activity, if you want. And then, as I said, a focus on prevention. In prevention, for example, we would like to move from the current situation where member states provide a summary of the risk assessments to a full risk assessment. And also look at risk management planning, so how we're going to address the risks. On the response side, we are proposing to create a kind of safety net. We call it RESC-EU. It's a safety net with reserve capacities that would be deployed when the national capacities of a country can no longer cope, and also the assets that we have currently in the pool, in the voluntary pool, are not sufficient. So it's a kind of, if you want, on a pyramid scale, the top of the pyramid with a safety net for additional resources, be it firefighting planes, or be it medical teams, additional medical teams, or other assets based on the main risks identified. And in all of that, subsidiarity is firmly embedded. So no member states has to fear that their system in any way is negatively impacted. In terms of administrative simplification, I mentioned already, we have a number of possibilities to co-finance. There are very different co-financing rates. One is 40%, 55%, 85%, 100%. We want to flatten that, simplify it. There will be only two co-financing rates or financing rates. One is 75% for assets that are pre-committed to the pool, 75% to support adaptation of existing teams for international deployments. What does it mean? For example, you have a search and rescue team in your country, you would like to make it available to another country, so you make it in a way that you can transport it by air, in containers and so on. So this upgrade of a module will then be supported also through the budget of the European Union. And then 100% we would provide for the safety net assets, and 100% related to the pooling and certification of assets. So an administrative simplification and a less complex set of rules. I mean, I'm not going into many details, but there's a new financial regulation coming up which allows us to pay lump sums and other things. So this is also a simplification. Voila, on the preparedness network, we will also restructure our training and exercise system to an extent that we will offer more targeted, specialized courses for CBRN experts, for fire experts, possibly also for communication experts. I mean, I see in this community here, I mean, communication, crisis communication, tools and so on, plays a very important role, so I would not exclude that we would also go a little bit in this direction, and we would then review our system of exchange of experts to allow more long-term exchanges between countries so that best practice can be exchanged in a better way, just to give you two examples. All of this obviously costs money, so we are also proposing to increase the current budget, the 7-year budget of 368 million, to top that up with a transitional budget and then a budget of 648 million for the next 7 years, means from 2021 to 2027. Okay, in conclusion, I think my time is up for the moment. We conclude, we think that this is it's certainly a politically important proposal, but it's firmly based on an analysis of the operational situation, its advantages and shortcomings. We think that the proposal will support member states with the possibility to acquire additional means, and we are very strong on the reinforcement of prevention. I mean, prevention, preparedness on the one side has to go hand in hand with the response. There is no reinforcing of the response without reinforcing of prevention and preparedness. Voila, that's it for the moment from my side. Thank you very much for your interest and for your patience.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Peter. Thanks for this bird's eye view, if you like, of how the mechanism works and stuff like that. Can I ask by a raise of hand, how many people here have had any training in the European Civil Protection Mechanism? Okay, so we do have a good audience.
Good.
Thank you, colleagues. All right, the floor is open for a couple of questions. So, any thoughts, ideas? Too early in the morning? Not enough caffeine levels? Yes, go ahead.
I was about to say silence is approval.
Thank you, Peter, for a nice presentation. I promised to ask you a question yesterday.
Yeah.
This was a question how this 112 community and civil protection mechanism is connected, and how you see it in the future. Should it be stronger, or as it stays as it is now?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want me to immediately?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Good. Well, the two communities are connected. We are serving, in a way, we are serving the same purpose. The purpose is to assist people in need and to sort of prepare them better, make them better aware of the risks and the dangers. So I think from that side, we are very much in the same, on the same wavelength. But I see, the focus of the 112 community is more, I would say, more local. I mean, you have car accidents, you have a need for ambulances, you need to put people with a heart attack very quickly to the hospital, while the mechanism is at a different scale. I mean, it's a kind of, well, the mechanism as such, if you want, is a safety net for countries that are overwhelmed by huge emergencies and disasters. So let's say the proportionality is a little bit different, but there's a close interaction anyway. I mean, we have, well, in the past we had very frequent contacts with 112 when it was about sort of rolling out the common number. Nowadays, the focus has shifted a little bit on your side, on telecommunication, on codes, and so on. But still, you can bring that back. And one thing that I reflected upon after our discussion yesterday evening is we are in the process of creating this knowledge network. And the network, I think, needs also the expertise of your community, well, which is also our community. But that aspect, in a way, should also be included. And I was quite intrigued when I visited the different stands and listened to the presentations of the last 2 days. There's indeed a lot of knowledge and a lot of savoir-faire, know-how in this community that should be brought also to the benefit in a stronger way of the mechanism in general. So I think this is something I'm taking home with me to reflect upon how this can be done in a sort of more systematic way.
You're right that emergency numbers in the countries are for everyday use, but also 112 in the country is going to be the first focal point for receiving the information. And somehow ERCC should have at least the direct landlines of all the 112 centers all over Europe. Maybe that's also an
Yeah.
idea to
Perhaps,
consider.
if you allow me a little anecdote, when we created the ERCC 5 years ago, we were discussing phone numbers. Which phone number should the ERCC have? And actually, we decided, and it was quite a long negotiation with our IT community, the number is 21112. So the last 5 digits or last 3 digits are actually 112. It doesn't mean that citizens should call us and we cannot help the citizens other than giving them back to the member state. But symbolically, I think this is a very interesting thing to do, to make sure or to have this illusion that we are actually serving the same purpose at different levels, but the citizen is in the focus.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. Peter Billing.
Thank you very much for your attention.